March was a really good reading month for me. I ended up reading 9 books, and a lot of them actually turned out to be 5 stars. So in this video, we are going to talk about all of these books that I read in March. We're going to start with the books that I read on my Kobo. So I read 2 books on the Kobo. The first one we're going to talk about is Two Twisted Crowns, which is the second book in the One Dark Window duology. I absolutely loved this book. This was a 5-star read for me, and it was better than the first book. There was just like, there was just so much to this book. And so like the romance in this book was way better developed than in the first one. The stakes, they were so high. You literally had your main character be killed off and being taken over by somebody else in her body, and they're all trying to like solve this thing about like where that last Twin Adlers card is, and it's just so good. The entire One Dark Window duology is so worth it. This second book definitely, it was so good. I read these one after the other. They were just like, I could not stop reading these books. So yeah, they're by Rachel Gillig, and they basically, in this fictional fantasy world, there are all of these cards, and these cards, if you use them, you kind of get a bit of like a magical advantage. So let's say use the Maiden card as an example. You can use the Maiden card, and what that does is it makes you look absolutely beautiful. However, the downfall is that you completely lose the ability to feel, and everything that was you and everything that made you a person slowly disappears. And all of these cards are like that. They grant you some cool ability, but then they take away something of you, be it like your life is no longer as long as it could be, like you lose your mind, like there's like so many things. And so we follow along our main character, Elspeth, who lives with this nightmare inside of her head. And that's just one of the cards, because like when she touched the nightmare card as a kid, she actually absorbed it, and now she and the nightmare are kind of like live in the same brain. And it's super, super interesting. I honestly really love the world and the magic system, just how all of it was done. But it was really this second book that made me just like, this is how you end a duology. And it was just really good. And it was like gothic and fun. And the other book that I read in my Kobo was Flames of Chaos by Amelia Hutchings. That is the first book in the Legacy of the Nine Realms. And this was a very interesting book because the first 50% was the most random, confusing kind of stuff that I've ever read. But the last 50%, I actually really enjoyed it, and I do plan on reading the rest of the series. It is very, very crude and very spicy. And I honestly don't like the male love interest at all, but there's just something about the story that I'm like, I kind of want to know where this goes. And I know that the series gets better as you continue to read. It's really just that first one just takes a really long time for the build-up and the setup of it, but then the rest of it I hear is really, really good, like that last 50% of the book. And so yeah, it basically follows along our main character, Arya. She's from the line of Hecate witches, and so she has a bunch of siblings, and the whole thing is that anybody born in the Hecate line is always going to be a twin. And so when her twin sister goes missing, she and all of her other many, many sisters go to figure out like what happened. And when they end up going to the place that she was last seen, there's this guy named Knox, and he has basically taken over the area and has proclaimed himself the king of the area. And he and Arya do not get along. There's a lot of hatred, but also lustful feelings towards each other. So enemies to lovers kind of vibes. But the book itself, like, I do not understand why it had to be as long as it needed to be. I think I gave this book 3 stars, but like a low 3 stars, if that makes sense. But yeah, it was one of those books that you never know what's going to happen. Just stuff starts to happen and you're like, what? It's super hard to describe, but it was weirdly enjoyable. I don't know. I really don't know. That one, I'm still like, when I think about it, I'm like, what did I read? But also like, I want to read the next one. Yeah. Guilty pleasure, I think, is what this book is. Now we're going to go to the physical books that I read. Those were the 2 that I read in the Kobo. And so yeah, the next book we're going to talk about is Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli. This is the last book in the Crimson Moth duology. And oh boy, this book, this was a 5-star. Like I said, March is a very, very good month for me. And this book, not only did it have one bed, it also just did such a great job in continuously building the relationship between our two main characters and just making the story make sense. And like the pacing of this book was really good, and the situations the characters got themselves in, and then the way that the book ended and how it wrapped everything up was just, it was just so, so good. This is another really great example of how to end a duology. I absolutely loved the two books, and this one did such a good job because it follows like the aftermath of what happened in the first book, Rune in this book. So Rune is a witch and Gideon is a witch hunter. And so it's really, really enemies to lovers done in such a beautiful, tasteful way. And there's like magic and a bunch of different characters and really good history and lore and just all of it. And it's really sad and it's really heartbreaking and it's really beautiful and amazing. I really, really loved both of these books. Next up, we have Shark Heart by Emily Zebeck. And this is one of those books where I did not actually want to read it at first because I thought it just sounded absolutely ridiculous. But then one of my friends, she's like, I've heard some really, really great things about Shark Heart. Like, you should read it. It totally sounds like up your alley. And I'm like, okay, what is it about? And she's like, well, okay, bear with me here. It is about a newly married couple where the husband is diagnosed with a very rare disease that he's slowly turning into a great white shark. And I'm like, what? And she's like, but it's great. It's poetic. It's sad. And like, it'll make sense if you read it. It made sense when I read it. It's also very, very short when you think about it. Like, they're not like full pages. This book is written like poetry. It is so beautiful and so well thought out and honestly, absolutely heartbreaking. You are following along this newly married couple where, I know it sounds silly, like the husband, his terminal illness is he's turned into a great white shark. But when you really think about it, it could also be a metaphor for any type of terminal illness. Like, he slowly loses the ability to walk. He loses his ability to handle his emotions, like how to behave in public. Like, he really just starts losing everything about himself. And his wife has to just kind of like, she's working as his caretaker at this point. And it's like seeing somebody that you love just slowly as the days go by lose more and more of themselves is horrible and depressing. And this book is basically two books in one, where you follow Ren and her husband Lewis, and then once their story's concluded, you follow Ren's mother and her story. And like, this is one of those books that will make you cry. I did not have tears going down, but I definitely was like, oh, this is really upsetting, this is really sad, but it's also really beautiful. And this is her debut. Like, so incredible. I just think that this book is really well done. It's so different, but it's also incredibly relatable, and it's a masterpiece. It is a piece of art. 5 stars, honestly. Next up, we have Famous Last Words by Gillian McAllister, and this is one of those books that I had incredibly high expectations for because Gillian McAllister's Wrong Place, Wrong Time was incredible. I still think about that book constantly, and so I had really high expectations going into this book, thinking that she was gonna like blow my mind like she did with that one, but unfortunately for me, this one fell really flat. It was predictable, it was really slow, and I just wasn't invested really in any of the characters or what was going on. I expected the book, because it really does seem like it's kind of presented as one day this woman wakes up and she finds out that her husband is holding people hostage. And so I thought that the book was going to be more about like her trying to figure out like, why did this happen? Maybe working with some of the police, but it does a really big time skip. And most of the time she's not really investigating anything. It focuses on the other character, Niall, who's more involved in investigating. And I don't know, I was just kind of hoping for, like, I know it's not realistic, but like when you want to read like a kind of murder mystery crime story, you usually want your main character to be the one who does the discovering and figures that out, all of this cool stuff. Like, she figures out some stuff, but not to the degree that I was hoping for and that we had seen in other works by Gillian McAllister. So yeah, this one, I think I gave it like a 3-star or so. It wasn't my favorite. Yeah, I think I honestly just had too high expectations for it. The next book is Our Infinite Fates by Laura Stephen, and unfortunately this was also a book that I had high expectations for but fell flat for me. So although it was a really good March read-in month with all the 5 stars, and we still have more 5 stars that we'll talk about after this one, but this one I was really excited about because it seems like this incredible love story that literally spans like centuries, because it's these 2 people who are basically like soul-bound to each other, and every single lifetime they always find each other, and before they turn 18 they have to kill each other. And so our main character has no idea why this keeps happening, but the guy does. And so every single time they're basically reincarnated. Sometimes they live their whole lives together, then they have to kill each other, or they find each other at the end and then have to kill each other, and all of this. And I'm like, wow, like what a tragic story. But unfortunately, what I didn't like about this book is that it started to become more of telling you something versus showing you something. It kept on telling you about how much they loved each other and how their love could like transcend time, but you actually don't really see that. You see maybe like a scene or two, but it's honestly like kind of a boring book, in my opinion. I wasn't really into the timeline that they were in. They were in like 2022. I'm like, I didn't really care about what was happening, especially because it was just like a miscommunication trope the entire time. And I would have loved to actually just see them fall in love, because there were some really good parts that I think could have been dug a little bit deeper and brought more to the forefront than what the story actually presented itself to be. Because if you had them start with their origin story and follow how they actually fell in love, and then have that big reveal that you do get at the end of this book, I think that it would have made it way, way better. But unfortunately, that part wasn't really focused on, and we were just constantly told about like, oh, this is their love story, they love each other, and it's like, but I want to see them love each other. I want to see the relationship. I want to see them fall for each other. But this book did not do that. I think I gave it 2.5 or a low 3 stars as well, but yeah, it did not meet my expectations. However, the next book definitely met my expectations. That's Sunrise on the Reaping by Susan Collins. This is the prequel story to The Hunger Games, focused on Haymitch, who is my favorite character in The Hunger Games, and kind of his experience as a tribute in The Hunger Games, because we know in the original trilogy, he's the mentor for Katniss and Peeta. And so when we get to see what his actual experience was like in The Hunger Games, what his life was like before, and how he ended up being who he is in the books, this book did a beautiful and heartbreaking job on it. This was a 5 star. I could not put this book down. It's so beautifully written. It hits the nostalgia, and it gives you just some absolutely devastating details about Haymitch and like why he can't have people close to him, why he pushes everybody away, why he turned to drinking. Like, I just feel so bad for him. And this was just like such a perfect compliment to the entire series. Cause like, you know, sometimes you have an incredible series and then it just kind of gets milked. This was not the case, because this just was such a good compliment, so much more detail, and it just makes you sad, and like, I don't know. It's one of those books that's just like, yes. And then the ending of this book, I'm never looking at gumdrops the same. I told my friend about how good this book is, because she and I were obsessed with The Hunger Games when we were like 12. And so I told her about how good it was, and she read it, and she messaged me like, wow, I'm sobbing. Did not expect that part with the gumdrops. Broken. I'm like, yes. So if you love Haymitch and you're a fan of The Hunger Games, this book is definitely worth it. Yeah, it does just like a really great job. And then because I ended up reading Sunrise on the Reaping, I felt really, really nostalgic. And so I actually ended up reading The Hunger Games and Catching Fire. I finished Mockingjay in April though, so we don't count that. This March reading wrap up. So yeah, we're gonna talk about both of these books because same series. Hunger Games and Catching Fire, both of them this was a reread for me because I read them when I was a teenager. And honestly, I gotta say that as an adult, I appreciate the series even more than I did before, because for me, I kind of romanticized it. I saw Katniss as this amazing, rebellious hero who was in control of everything, but as you read the series in a new light, you're like, that's actually not what happens. Like, she doesn't really have control, and it's also kind of jarring to see the mirror that these books have to our current world as well, which I'm like, oh, that's kind of scary. That's something else I did not notice as a teenager. But yeah, this is definitely, so good. The nostalgia on it obviously makes the books even better because you just like have such a good time with it. And so I devoured these 2 books. I really, really loved them. And they still hold up like years and years and years later. I think that they hold up even better, to be honest. And there's just so many things that you miss when you're younger, especially the whole like I romanticized the story and saw Katniss as this like leader and this hero, but she was just a girl who happened to get wrapped up in something bigger than herself and was just trying to survive and keep her family safe, and ended up becoming a figurehead, became a mascot for rebellion. And like, yeah, she was kind of interested in being part of the rebellion, but not to the degree that they had done with her. And like the trauma that she goes through and like the flashbacks and like everything, it is such, like, I'm shocked that it is a young adult book because of like the deep, dark pain and just everything in the books, this literal killing of children. It never ceases to amaze me what you can get away with in young adult content. But yeah, this series is still really, really good. So yeah, these were the 9 books that I ended up reading in March 2025. I hope you enjoyed this read and wrap up. This video also gives you a really good idea into the types of books that I do like to read. And so if you're interested in those types of books, those genres, or even just like watching people read those types of books, these are the books that I like to enjoy. And I make videos about every single book that I read, before I read it, while I'm reading it, and after I finish it. So that way you get all of my thoughts as I'm reading the book. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, definitely hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and turn on the bell notification. That way you get notified anytime a new video comes out. If you enjoyed this video and you're a big fan of read and wrap-ups, definitely hit the like button. And great news for you, you can get exclusive access to my videos before they're published, as well as comment priority where I will reply back to you. You could get really cool badges and emojis, and this is all possible by becoming a member of the I'm Talking Waffles channel. So there are 3 different tiers, a bunch of different options, so whatever makes the most sense for you. If you want exclusive access, there's a tier for that. If you want to support me, you can get cool emojis as well. So there's a bunch of different tiers, and all proceeds of becoming a member of my channel go towards me getting more books that we can read together on this channel. Because I don't know if you know, but books are very expensive nowadays, especially in Canada. So your support means the world to me, and I think it's just a great way for us to interact. So if that's interesting to you, all the information is in the description to this video. And so with that, I'm going to wish you warm wishes and fish kisses, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!